Classification of white matter of cerebrum. CNS is a central nervous system including the brain and the spinal cord. If you take any part of the CNS, it is predominantly made up of two types of cells named neurons, which are the functional unit of the nervous system, and the supporting cells named neuroglia. In addition to this, there are blood vessels supplying this tissue and cerebrospinal fluid present inside the cavities named as the ventricles in the central nervous system. If we take the tissue of the central nervous system, this can be divided into two named grey matter and white matter. They are named grey and white matter based on the appearance in a freshly cut tissue. The grey matter appears more greyish in color. The white matter appears silvery white in color. So what do exactly the grey matter is made of? The grey matter is a part of the central nervous system which lodges the cell bodies of neurons. In fact, the cell bodies of neurons are exclusively present in the grey matter. In addition to the cell bodies of neurons, there will be supporting cells named as neuroglia, as well as numerous blood vessels also can be seen. So the grey matter in the central nervous system, when we consider brain, it is distributed in two different types of regions named as cortex. Again, cortex is the outermost layer of the cerebrum named as the cerebral cortex, and the outer surface of the cerebellum named as cerebellar cortex. And there are huge masses of grey matter surrounded by white matter. They are deep inside the central nervous system. They are named as nuclei. There are different nuclei present in the central nervous system in all the parts, the cerebrum, the cerebellum, and brainstem. You'll know the examples are thalamus is a group of nucleus, caudate nucleus, lentiform nucleus, or the nucleus of cranial nerves in the brainstem. All these are examples of nuclei. This is about the brain, but in the spinal cord, it is comprised of a core column of grey matter surrounded by white matter. And then what is this white matter? White matter is simply the extensions of the neurons of cell body carrying sensory or motor fibers connecting these different grey matters of the central nervous system. The white matter appears more silverish white in color because the white matter is predominantly comprising of axons or dendrites of neurons with myelination along with the neuroglia cells. The white matter also has numerous blood vessels in it. The functions of white matter is to connect these different grey matter either to cortex, to the nucleus, or any of these grey matter to a lower grey or white matter of the central nervous system, for example, connecting the spinal cord and the brain. In this session, we will discuss about the classification of white matter. The white matter can be principally classified into three types: association fibers, commissural fibers, and projection fibers. The function of association fiber is to connect different parts of the cerebral cortex of the same hemisphere. Association fiber is again subdivided into short association and long association fibers. The long association fibers are again divided into superior longitudinal fasciculus, inferior longitudinal fasciculus, Fronto-occipital fasciculus, Cingulate fasciculus, and Cingulate fasciculus. Here is the right cerebral hemisphere from the medial aspect. Here is a fronto-occipital fasciculus connecting the frontal lobe and the occipital lobe. This is the inferior longitudinal fasciculus. connecting the temporal and occipital lobe. This is the corona radiata of the internal capsule. There is another bundle which is lateral to the internal capsule, which is named as the superior longitudinal fasciculus. The superior longitudinal fasciculus and the fronto-occipital fasciculus are very similar in its connection, but they are separated by the corona radiata of the internal capsule. Here is the uncinate fasciculus connecting the frontal and temporal poles. The cingulate fasciculus. It extends from the anterior part of the rostrum to the uncus. So these are the long association fibers connecting the gray matter located in a distance but in the same cerebral hemisphere. Commissural fibers are white matter fibers which connect the similar gray matter of the opposite cerebral hemispheres. The largest of the commissures is the corpus callosum, and that is the largest of all the commissures. Then anterior commissure, posterior commissure, habenular commissure, and hippocampal. These are two cerebral hemispheres after taking a horizontal section, and you are seeing from above. In this plane, after taking a section of cerebral hemisphere in this plane, you can see the corpus callosum. Most of the fibers of corpus callosum are horizontally arranged. Few fibers forms a loop running between the frontal poles, and there is a thick large bundle forming another loop connecting the occipital lobes, and there are few fibers which are radiating to the outer part posterolaterally. So basically, if you take a sagittal section like this, you are seeing through its thickness. Here is how it looks like. So this is anterior, posterior, this is right and left. Now in this diagram, the orientation is, here is anterior, posterior, superior and inferior. That is a section of this part of the corpus callosum. This anterior is here, the posterior part is here. And this fibers you will see here in this region. So this region of the corpus callosum is named as the Genu. This thin part is named as Rostrum, and this is the body, and that is the Splenium. Forceps minor, and this is a little more larger. The forceps minor is located in the region of Rostrum and Genu. This is forceps major. Forceps major is passing through the splenium of corpus callosum, and this horizontal fibers forms in the body, and this fibers which is radiating out posterolaterally is named as tapetum. And you have to remember one fact, that here from below upwards there will be the internal capsule. So here is the horizontal fibers of corpus callosum, and the internal capsule is coming from below upwards, and the fibers are intersecting like this. This is fibers of corpus callosum, and this is the fibers of internal capsule coming from below, and they intersect like this, and this is region where the internal capsule fibers and the corpus callosum fibers intersect and they cross each other. Anterior commissure is a small commissure connecting the temporal lobes, which is located anterior to the rostrum of the corpus callosum. It has two functional components named paleocortical component and neocortical component. Habenular commissure is a small commissure located in the superior lamina of the stalk of the pineal gland. and the posterior commissure is situated in the inferior lamina of the stalk of pineal gland.